Welcome to week one of college football. Last week was zero. It was a fun tease, and it was great games to enjoy and just get your feet wet. Now we're getting knee deep in the season. Games on Wednesday, technically. Hey, there is no technically about it. There's a game Wednesday. Well, let's start with Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Last time I checked, that means there's 5 consecutive full nights that people will be tuning into for college football. This is week one. This is the Coach and Crew Show. We're going to dive deep into a lot of games. We're going to share our picks. We're going to break down a few of these bigger games. It's going to have some fun. We're going to have some good eats. So strap in and enjoy the show. Let's get it on. The national media headline game of the weekend is taking place in Charlotte on ABC primetime about 7:30 p.m. The Georgia Bulldogs and the Clemson Tigers meet head-to-head. And this is probably a much more win game for Clemson because of their schedule. Georgia just has a stronger schedule. That doesn't mean Georgia can afford to lose this game and not stumble, okay? So both teams are taking this as a bowl game type of preparation, and not just those fun, cute bowls. I mean, this is like college football playoff bowl game implications already week one, where the pressure might be more on Clemson just because of their strength of schedule, or in some cases like this year, possibly their lack of strength of schedule, depending on how some of their ACC opponents shake out. It's an initial battle of quarterbacks. Let's just say that. You got DJ Ukulele on one side for Clemson, making his not first official start, since he did start the Notre Dame game and he did start Boston College last season, but this is his first full season as a starter. And you got JT Daniels, some people putting him near the top of the food chain with a Heisman hopeful and NFL status attached to his name. So you got the two matchups that Georgia could have the bigger name playmakers at JT's side. Okay, you have Zamir White at the running back position, who's going to be fighting for all SEC honors all year long. And then you got some wideouts that could be possibly all SEC contenders as well. I'm going to throw a freshman for you. Eric Gilbert, A-R-I-K, Gilbert. Freshman tight end, could be one of the best tight ends in the country this season. So keep an eye on him. Where I think the difference could be made, though, is on the D-line of Clemson. I'm putting the ultimate challenge on 2 people. I'm not going to call them out, so to say. I'm going to say that the game probably rests on their shoulder pads. You got Brian Breesy and Miles Murphy of Clemson. I think if those two have the dominant game and a big-time impact, they can slow down Georgia's offense, and Clemson's offense is not too shabby either. Clemson could win this because of Brian Breesy, All-American, and possible All-American Miles Murphy. It's the defensive line of Clemson that I think could control this game. Now, the same could be said about Georgia's, but well, from my point of view, I'm looking at the defensive line of Clemson as the main difference makers for this game.
With a huge week one matchup with Georgia and Clemson being at a neutral site in Charlotte this weekend, you got to wonder who's got the home field advantage. Well, unfortunately, these schools are only about 75 miles apart, and even though it's in the Carolinas, I wouldn't say either team has the edge here. I'm just hoping that the ticket prices are low enough for some real rowdies to get in there, but I have a feeling both fan bases are going to travel well, and it's going to be rocking. Let's get ready for some good college football.
What could be actually the best game of the night, if it plays out to being, is LSU flying in from Houston, playing against UCLA in the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl hopefully will be at capacity and not the unfortunateness that it was this past week when they played Hawaii. LSU had a quarterback. They had Miles Brennan, and now it's going to be Zach Johnson because Miles Brennan's out with injury. So that's a factor. They do have some talent around. Keyshawn Boutte as a wide receiver, making the cover of the Charlie Krause Preview magazine, All-American cornerback Derek Stingley. So LSU has talent. This is not going to be the LSU of 2020. I also don't think it's going to be the LSU of 2019. And so LSU's coming in a little bit licking their wounds, a little bit disoriented because of the hurricane and that situations. But I still think it's going to be closer to a 2019 type of program than it is a 2020 type of program. With that said, I've asked one of my counterparts that I've met along the way through all of this business and networking, my good friend James, to help me out. He's James Williams of the Southern Cal News Corp. He's going to give us the preview of what UCLA needs to do to win.
Is LSU UCLA. So I'm going to start the sentence and I'll let you finish the sentence. UCLA will win because
they'll win because of the running game. But I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is important, as I kind of alluded to earlier. I mean, again, he's a dual threat quarterback who can run the ball. So if that means he has to run the ball himself, that's fine. They do need to establish the passing game. The passing game will be important, but at the end of the day, you at least need to open the passing game enough so you can keep the LSU defense honest and get something going with Charbonnet and Brown in the backfield. I mean, those are your guys that obviously showed you they can score, and it doesn't matter how far you are or where you're at on the field, they're going to make a play for you. I think Britton Brown had a 21-yard run, and I think I think Charbonnet had a 47-yard touchdown run. So those guys can move the ball for you. There's no doubt about it. The defense, I think the defense may have some sort of an advantage against their quarterback. I think Max Johnson, I think the guy they wanted as a starter got hurt again this season. So I think Max Johnson is the guy for LSU. I think he played the end of last season, so he has some experience. So not discounting the experience he had, but I think if the Bruins can apply pressure on defense, rattle him a little bit, and it's been a tough week for LSU. One of the reporters said on Monday, just when we were kind of talking amongst ourselves, that it's almost like a no-win situation for LSU, for USC, or for UCLA anyways, that they either win and they come off as the upset story, but then they also beat LSU, who got relocated and moved to Houston, and they're playing with a different level of emotions because of everything going on with the hurricane, or LSU just runs over UCLA, and it was just like LSU was just a more talented team. So maybe it is a no-win situation for UCLA, but I think if they win the game, even if it's just by a point, it can only mean positive things for this group going forward. They have high expectations, and this is a big game. The first non-conference win in what is now Chip Kelly's fourth year, to barely get your first non-conference win last week. Say what you will about it, but I think they have a little bit of momentum going into this game. And again, this being their second of 3 home games to start the season, I think they're in a good place. Now,
very rarely do I disagree with, especially one of my own guests, but James, I am going to disagree just partially with what you're saying. It's definitely not a lose-lose situation for UCLA. Oh my gosh. If you guys win and you beat LSU, 1, that's an SEC powerhouse, and 2, less than 24 months ago, they won the national championship in domination form. Also, please check out our full video of the full interview between James and I on a separate publication that I have made. Look for that on my YouTube channel, as well as our website and Twitter feed. Coastal Carolina opens up their season this Thursday night. They had a storybook season in 2020. This Thursday night, they open up on ESPN Plus, where they hope to pack and sell out Brooks Stadium against state rival, the Citadel, former conference rivals when they were both FCS opponents. When I asked Coach Chadwell what this week's theme is, he said one word: discipline.
It's going to be that week. And so, the character trait is for us is discipline. And that's one of our core values of our program. But that's been our emphasis for this game. one, that's what it's going to take to win the game. I shared that earlier. There's got to be a discipline to what you do when you play when you play a team like theirs, but also just a discipline that we have to have in the way we prepare and the way that we focus. And that's more obviously an internal thing. But we'll do that each week.
Coach,
I also spoke with All-American defensive tackle C.J. Brewer of the Chanticleers about what it's going to take to stop the triple option offense of the Citadel. And here's what he had to say, and then furthermore about just the excitement of the season.
That's very important, getting off the field. So, with Citadel offense, that's their goal, just take up as much slot as possible. So, so we have to come in with the right game plan so we can get off the field on third down so we can let our offense do what they do. It brings a lot of excitement. Actually, I'm smiling under the mask. I know you probably can't tell now. But really, man, just to go out there and just, do what we do. Just play football, just have fun, playing in front of crowds now. It's going to be a big excitement for me and Jeffrey. Just go out there and just, just play, do what we do, and just let the world see that, we still here to play ball.
So apparently I'm the reason why Texas is ranked so high in the Coaching Crew Show's top 25. However, you'll find out why this weekend in my game of the week when the ranked Louisiana Raging Cajuns come to town after a 10-1 season last year where they upset another Big 12 school in Iowa State. It's not going to happen again this year. Got new head coach Steve Sarkisian in there, just made a decision on his quarterback, going with the top recruit from 2020 in Hudson Card. He's a dual threat. We'll see what he can do. But the real special weapon in the backfield is going to be running back Robinson, also from the 2020 class, who averaged 8.2 yards a carry last year behind 4 or 5 same offensive linemen that are returning. So it's going to be a good season for the Longhorns.
Here we go. Week 1, BYU versus Arizona, 10:30 kick. I'm expecting a pretty convincing BYU win. It's 34-14. Just not expecting a whole lot from Arizona this year, especially coming off an 0-5 year, 70-7 loss to end of the season last year against Arizona State. First-year head coach and Jed Fish. They're going to be playing 2 freshman quarterback during the game. Just not a recipe for success this year for Arizona. As for BYU, I know people are expecting a bit of a drop-off this year, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be as big of a drop-off as people might think. I think this year's wide receiver and running back room for BYU is as deep as it's ever been, especially since Kalani's been here. So hopefully it should be a great game to end, great first Saturday night of college football. So, yeah.
The spread is all of 1.5. Now, Texas Tech, I think, is about to revert back to the Texas Tech of old that most of us know them for. Sonny Cumbie returns now as their OC. They brought in quarterback transfer from Oregon, Tyler Shook. This is going to be the pass-em, high-octane offense that we've come to expect over Texas Tech over the past decade or so when they would throw for 400-plus yards a game every game. Look for that more so of an offense. And then Dana Holgorsen down in Houston, he's doing things right. This is not a bad team at all. They're going to be competing in the American Conference every single week. They're going to finish in the top tier of the American Conference, and the American Conference is loaded. They have an All-American as well. Look for Marcus Jones. Every time he touches the ball, he can take it to the distance, and he's their punt returner. So every time that Texas Tech might have to punt the ball, expect Marcus Jones to be the touchings unless they're putting it out of bounds intentionally. This is going to be a great matchup. I think you'll enjoy it, but it's not one of those nationally pop out of the radar type of games. But this one's going to be a good one to watch and watch for both of these teams throughout the year.
So for today, we're going to just
Keep it simple and make it awesome, and do some chicken nachos. All you need is chicken, water, nacho mix, and then whatever toppings you like on top. Start with boiling the chicken, and that's it. Once the chicken has come to a boil and it looks good enough, then you just simply add your seasoning and mix that around until, I do it until the water is all gone. Now it's time for you just to layer it up to your liking. I live in the neighborhood of never go light on cheese. So only thing left after you layer it heavily with cheese, put it in the oven, and just preheat. And there we have it, chicken nachos a la Charlie. Eat up and enjoy.
And now to the Coach and Crew Show game picks for week 1.
Let's start with Thursday night and the Bounce House, where UCF is hosting the Fightin' John Aidens of Boise State. And these two actually have something in common, coaching storylines. So, because Gus was released from Auburn, he is now the head coach at UCF, which Brian Harsin left Boise State and now is at Auburn. So a little bit of a storyline there. Most of the crew seems to be on UCF. We'll talk more about Appalachian State next week, but keep your eye on this name, Cameron Peebles for Appalachian State. Both the Pirates and the Mountaineers expect to see heavy run attack, but the majority is heavily on App State this time. Friday night, we shift to the ACC, where Virginia Tech hosts North Carolina. Sam Howell makes his appearance and begins his Heisman campaign. Most of the coaching crew staff is on the Tar Heels. We get to Saturday, and here's where the games start really becoming split. At Camp Randall, kicking things off at the noon o'clock game. We have Penn State, where most of the crew is at. I'm currently on the Badgers at 42%. Under the radar game, it's in the Jerry Dome. This is a 12 o'clock kickoff, and I'm sure the Big 12 and Pac-12 are not too happy about a early start time for this type of game. Stanford and Kansas State meet on neutral settings, and looks like the majority of the Coach and Crew show are on the Cardinal. Coach here is big on the Wildcats. Another fly under the radar game. This is one of those ones you probably won't watch, but this could be a very good watch. Look at Army with a small advantage over Georgia State on the road. Same thing, another fly under the radar game. We have a 50-50 split. This is the first time in 14 years that Marshall will not have Doc Holliday on the sidelines, as they let him go at the end of the year. And then Navy, they're expecting a much better season than what was reproduced last season. Classic rivalry. West Virginia travels to Maryland. We've got a 50-50 split on this one. Byron gave us the storyline. Byron's also the reason why Texas is big. So Byron, time to put up or shut up. Most of the Coach and the Crew show staff is in support of Byron's theories, at least week 1 against the Raging Cajuns. I'm personally rolling that dice and going with the Sunbelter. Texas Tech, they are a 1.5 point favored. I'm personally on favor of them, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Houston takes this. But I'm looking at Texas Tech this year. Most of the Coach and Crew staff is on Houston. One of the games of the week we featured LSU and UCLA. LSU is a 3-point road favorite, and the small majority of the Coach and Crew staff is on LSU. I'm going to go ahead and ride my UCLA bandwagon. I said UCLA last week, and then I stuttered my way through it. UCLA, for those of you who grew up in the 80s, was the quote-unquote pet of Thundar the Barbarian. And so UCLA, UCLA, make the UCLA reference. So we got Thundar going, and I'm going to pull the upset here for this one. And in our main event game, Georgia and Clemson, neutral site setting. Clemson is a 3-point favorite. Most of the crew is on the Dogs. I'm breaking SEC tradition, which is a shame on me. I went against LSU, and I'm now going against Georgia. I'm taking Clemson for this one. Enjoy week 1.